Welcome to our training video for parents and carers, all about supporting your child's understanding of spoken language. This is part of a series of videos for parents and carers to support their child's communication skills at home. If you have any questions about this training, please contact our training team using the email address on the screen here. This video will cover the following points. What do speech and language therapists mean when they say understanding of language? How to support your child's understanding of language. We'll outline 4 key strategies that you can use in everyday activities, and we'll signpost you to some helpful resources and further reading. Understanding of spoken language refers to how your child understands the words and sentences you say to them. This could include skills such as following instructions, for example, go and put your coat and shoes on and find your bag. Understanding explanations, for example, we can't go to the swimming pool today because it isn't open. And understanding questions such as, who did you play with? Or how did you make that? So what are the key things to look out for when thinking about your child's understanding of language? If they have difficulties with understanding language, you may notice that they do not follow instructions accurately, particularly long instructions or unexpected instructions. They might follow what other people do or copy their siblings. They might answer questions incorrectly or misunderstand key question words like how or why. They might look confused when you explain something or seem frustrated and not understand your reasoning. They might make comments like, I don't know, or I can't remember. And if you ask them, do you understand? They might say yes, but then cannot repeat the instruction back to you or answer the question accurately. The first strategy we're going to introduce is breaking longer instructions down. When giving instructions, it's important that we give one step at a time, use only 1 to 2 key words per sentence, and give the steps in the correct order. On the next slide, we'll give some examples of how to use this strategy during everyday activities. When you're getting ready in the morning, you'll want to avoid instructions like, before you put your socks on, make sure you brush your teeth. Instead, keep the instructions short and simple and in the right order. So you might say, brush your teeth. And when they've done that, you might say, brush your hair. And then put your socks on, eat your breakfast, get your bag. So you've broken the instructions down and you've given them in the order that you want them to complete them. When baking together, you'll want to avoid overly complicated instructions like, would you mind getting one of those eggs in front of you, please, so that I can crack it? Instead, use simple instructions like, pass me the egg, or 1 spoon of sugar, or give it a big mix, or maybe pour it in here. When playing board games together, you'll also want to avoid long instructions like, first roll the dice and then see how many dots there are, and then move that many spaces, and if there's a ladder you go up, and if there's a snake you go down. You'll also want to avoid instructions that contain difficult words like, drop your counter into one of the slots, and if it creates a horizontal, vertical, or diagonal line of 4 counters, then you win. Instead, break the instructions into small chunks again and use simple words like roll the dice, count the dots, move 3 spaces, or look for 3 counters in a line. The next strategy we're going to think about is demonstrating and modelling. This means showing the child what you want them to do and using simple words to talk about what you're doing as you're doing it. On the next slide, we'll give some examples of how to use this strategy during everyday activities. When gardening together, while showing them how to put a seed into the soil, you might say, poke your finger in the soil like this. And while demonstrating watering the plants, you might say, sprinkle the water on the soil, just like this. When playing sports together, you might demonstrate kicking a ball with the inside of your foot and say, kick with the inside of your foot like this, while showing them. And when playing catch, you could say, bring the ball into your chest just like this. At bath time, you might say, wash your face, while you mime washing your own face so that they can see. You might say, you can pour the water like this, while you show them how to pour water using bath toys, cups, or a jug. The next strategy we're going to think about is using picture schedules. This means using photos or pictures to show a child what's going to happen either over a whole day or within an activity. On the next 2 slides, we'll give some examples of how to use this strategy during everyday activities. Picture schedules showing a whole day can also be called a visual timetable, which you may have heard about in school. Here is an example of a picture schedule for a full day out. While showing your child the pictures, you can use simple words to describe what will happen. For example, first we're going to Grandpa's house, then we'll go to the park, then we'll come back home. You could use printed pictures, but you don't need to do this. You can show them photos on your phone or find pictures from the internet. You can go back to the photos throughout the day to remind your child of what is happening next. For example, you might say, the park has finished, now we're going home. Here is an example of a picture schedule that could be used within a task. This is for an arts and crafts activity. Here the child has the step-by-step instructions with a visual to help them understand what they need to do. This helps them to remember the steps and complete the activity more independently. The next strategy we're going to think about is simplifying questions. This means changing the question word to make it easier for your child to understand and answer. The picture on the slide is showing the mountain of questions. The types of questions at the bottom of the mountain are easier to understand and they get more difficult as you move up the mountain. On the next slide, we'll give some examples of how to use this strategy during everyday activities. A trickier question you might ask while reading a book together would be, why are they crying? An easier question would be, what are they doing? Or, are they happy or sad? While you're playing in the sandpit or at the beach, a trickier question you might ask is, where should we build a sandcastle? An easier question would be, should we build the sandcastle here? And then they need to give either a yes or no response. A trickier question you might ask while watching TV or a film together might be, why did Peppa do that? An easier question would be, who did Peppa want to play with? Here are some resources around understanding of language that you may find helpful. The first is a link to a page on the Sirona's Children's Speech and Language Therapy website with advice around supporting understanding of language. The second link is to BBC Tiny Happy People, which is a website with lots of activity ideas and strategies to support language development. They also have social media pages on Facebook and Instagram. The last link is to a page on the Speech and Language UK website, which outlines strategies to support children's understanding of words and sentences. We hope this video has covered the following points for you. What is understanding of language? Some strategies on how to support your child's understanding of language, and some resources and further reading. If you have any further questions, you can either contact your child's speech and language therapist or find out more information from our speech and language therapy website. Our website will have the most up-to-date contact details to get in touch with a member of our team. Thank you for listening.